What'd you say his name is again?
Denny Swift, number 96 car. You trust me. This kid's a diamond in the rough. You really serious about starting your own team? Here's your man, right there.
He's been down almost a full lap this whole stint.
It's not about who's got the heavier foot. It's about feel. Denny was the first to make the call to switch to rain tires. Hey, what's this? Reminds me what they used to say about Senna. When it rains, it doesn't rain on him.
Now go down low.
Put your head down.
Pushing.
Sorry. Good, stay.
Good. Now down there.
Stay, good.
Very good.
Watch.
Very good.
Speak! Speak, Mark! Good, speak. Good catch. Speak. Good catch.
Okay. All right. Ready to do this?
Go
You
ahead,
ready?
Dad.
Ready?
Ready?
Steady. Okay, cool.
Sandwich. Okay, ready? Let's eat this cake, guys. Come on.
And roll, please. We good on finals?
Nobody moves when you need them to move. They all just stand right there and then.
Ready? Steady.
Go!
Oh shit, sorry, are we affecting you there, Mark?
Anytime if you can.
I just have to get in here. Pick it up, hold it, hold it. Mark. Stay back.
No, Enzo.
Stay.
That was awesome.
Ring, ring.
Good. Good. Speak. Stay. Down.
Yeah.
I'm ready, yep.
Okay. Come on, bud. Good job. Good job. Full tail?
No, Lynn Ramsey ran for Council?
Listen,
Realize that this would be using all my memories, my experiences, but I have a plan. I will try to imprint what I know on my soul, carry it with me deeply.
Good. Put your head good down. Stay. Stay.
That's my zone.
Okay. Is that a lens change or is it a? Yeah, it could be the same thing. All right. Going again.
that'd be good, because then it would look like it's his leash. Roll, please. Tail spin, tail slates.
Ready, Ed?
And speak.
Good boy. Toss it, yeah. Yeah. Which you did on the last.
Okay, yeah.
Mark it. Sir, right.
Okay, 2 notes for your background. One is go background and action. What's wrong?
So those should be fine.
Hey, Chad.
Is it freaking out on the pics as well?
Not right now.
But
I read it and I was really moved by, there's this phrase that was repeated throughout, that which we manifest is before us. And there were all these conversations about being present and about perspective, and I found it really inspiring. Like, I found a lot of it applicable to life in general, but also applicable to acting, about being present and living in the moment, and even thinking about career and sort of projecting what you want to be. So I was inspired, and I was really moved by the father-daughter and family dynamic, and watching a man persevere, and he's lost almost everything, and all he's driven by is love, and that's beautiful. Mark Finn is Denny's attorney, so he's sort of helping him navigate the process of maintaining full custody of his daughter and the criminal charges and the suit that the twins have launched against him. It's interesting because you're meeting someone who, I guess you can consider them loose friends, but he's helping him navigate, aside from Eve's death, one of the most traumatic moments in his life. Mark has kids and is married, so he understands what that relationship is and that bond and what that would cost a person. And I think he respects Denny and he wants to do whatever he can to aid in this process. So in some ways he acts as the sort of the standard attorney client sort of relationship, but he, in some ways, is also a confidant and just someone to whisper in your ear and say, we can do this, and this is the path that we must take to get there. I'm always impressed when I meet someone who's really accomplished, but who sort of leads with their heart, and they come to a project with an open heart and a willingness just to roll up your sleeves and let's work. And I think that's a very Denny-esque vibe to have. And as Denny lives in the novel and the screenplay, like to me, he feels like a man's man, and like the kind of guy who could be gruff and changing your oil, but who could also lovingly hold his daughter and pour out his heart in a way. And I feel like Milo embodies all of that. I'm always attracted to filmmakers who are sort of really interested in unpacking what it means to be human, and if you can watch a film and you feel invested in the people that you're watching and they feel like real people, because like sometimes they don't, and that you're moved by it, like that at the end of the day, I want to be moved to something, like moved to laughter, moved to tears, moved to be angry, to be enraged by something, but like moved in some kind of way. And both of those films, I felt really moved and excited by the visual element as well as the sort of human heart that was beating in the center of it. So, and I'm always impressed with film directors that also work in the theater, because theater is something that's near and dear to my heart, and Simon does both of those. So in my book, he's all aces. There's something very pure about the love you get from a dog. And that's a really comforting thing to come home to at the end of the day. Someone that like has your back no matter what, and that's excited to see you. And I feel like in some ways, in a similar way that kids might, that reminds you of like the pure pleasures in life and not to make things so complicated sometimes. I think it's a movie that unpacks what it means to be human in a very personal and real way. I think it's a movie that sort of combines racing and fatherhood and love in a very different kind of way, but that also reminds you that it's really important to be present and to breathe and live in the moment that you have right now.
I love that book, and I love it because of basically what he chose as the point of view, which was seeing everything, this family drama, through the eyes of this dog. To me, it's a very, I can only imagine, a vivid depiction of what's going through, you know, an animal who's attached to a family like that. I like characters like that. They're kind of like, they're kind of too old to do what they used to do, but they know a lot about it, you know. So there's a different view of that, maybe a more, you know, a little bit more laid back, or the pressure's not on as much. But he admires him greatly, and I think that's, he's kind of a safety net for Ben, as far as Denny's concerned, because there's really no pressure coming from him. He's only really, you know, I think he's got his back. It's a cliche phrase, but he calls him a diamond in the rough. And I think that he, you know, he's a teacher himself. He's a teacher of driving. And so he, you know, he must have an ability to identify what it takes to be competitive. It's a weird combination, probably, I could imagine, because it's got to be somewhat aggressive mixed with some form of caution. You've got a lot of elements in this movie. You've got animals, first of all. You've got all this machinery. You've got large scenes with large crowds. Rain we did the other day. A lot of elements, and that takes somebody with another combination of patience and drive, and just a, you know, just a warm demeanor, which Simon has. Garth Stein, who wrote this book, the way he combined the philosophy of racing, the mental inner workings of it, for lack of a better word, you know, the kind of almost, you know, unexplainable talent that it takes, combine, and then having that go through the filter of a dog, and him actually thinking about those things in those ways because he's getting it from his master. It's, you know, it's extraordinary.
I thought the characters, they were interesting characters, and character-driven. I mean, the dog Enzo is a character, but obviously bringing in very human qualities. But the, you know, character-driven pieces are rare these days in films and studio films. They're a rare thing now. So when you see a character-driven, when you get a character-driven script coming your way from a studio, it's pretty exciting, actually. My job is to find the reasons why my character does what he does, and in this case, he's clearly obsessed with, or is driven by, the welfare of his daughter and then his granddaughter. So, and he's a man of means. He has money. I don't know if it was his biggest fear, but it's one of his fears, this type of man, that his daughter is going to marry someone who's not going to be financially secure. And again, that's what this guy, that's how he orders the world, is around financial security. So here she brings home somebody who's not only not likely to be a secure, I mean financially secure, but he's in a dangerous job on top of it. So all he's thinking about is the heartache that lays ahead, you know, for her, and then how is he going to provide for the granddaughter. I wanted to explore a certain emotional life there for him, a little easier going than maybe we would expect. But when it comes to the real losing a daughter and the trauma of that, I mean, we all know in many cases, parents who lose a child, let alone an only child, they simply don't survive. I mean, they just don't survive. The marriage doesn't survive, or one or both of them literally don't survive. They lose it. They lose the will to live. So that's not in this story, but I mean, that's another thing that Simon and I talked about, because That's not the story we're doing. These folks survive. But we agreed that some element of that level of grief had to be, for me as an actor, I had to have that in mind when I was approaching the confrontation with Denny about, handing him the papers and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's just a man on the verge of a breakdown. He has a level of sincerity that's very endearing, it kind of comes from his toes, which it comes up from the bottom, and he means it, and it's just a natural quality he has, which is, I think, very appealing. It's very reassuring to know a director's paying attention, so that you might make a subtle adjustment or something and it's very subtle, or you're just doing the work and doing a scene and they come up and say something and you just know right away that they're paying attention. They know exactly what you're doing. And Simon, he's really trying to achieve something, and he's being very meticulous about it.
I looked at it and I read, I was like, this is really interesting. It's going to be tough to make into a movie, because of the point of view of the dog, the voiceover and the philosophy I thought was really right on. And Garth did a fantastic job of capturing the authenticity of racing and the mentality of it. They say it takes 10 years to make a film and to get it through development, and that's what happened. I think it makes it all the sweeter now to finally see it in production. It means a lot more because we really had to work for it. And it happened in its own time. It's happening now because it's supposed to. He brings a sensitivity to it and an understanding because it is such a heavy piece, right? It's very melodramatic in that sense. So he understands how to keep those tones and making it so that it has changes, it has reversals, and it has a sense of humor and irony to it. And I think that's what's going to be really wonderful about Kevin Costner's voice. That gives it that humanity and that weight, and also that the irony in the heart and soul. There are a lot of similarities between the racing community and the film community because there's a lot of people involved in order to get a car on the track or getting a film up on the screen. So my role is really bringing in the contacts and the authenticity of the racing is our objective. That's what we want to do. That what you manifest is before you, right? Is sort of, so what does that mean? What is that? So it's, if you believe it, you see it, it will become true, right? So there's a mindfulness in sport. There is, it's Zen, and it's like, whatever you're thinking, whether you're conscious of that or not, it will manifest itself physically in front of you. And you can kind of control your own destiny that way. And I think that's the brilliance in this novel and what Garth really was exploring as a writer that I think is so true in life. And especially in the world that we're in right now, that's really important messaging, I think.
He's a guy who has a lot going for him, and he works really hard. He has his focus and his drive toward racing. But he's also someone that has this great love for Enzo, for his dog, and this great romantic love with Eve, his wife, and this great paternal love for his daughter. But at the same time, these bumps in the road, these rainstorms, these things keep coming into his life that I really love the journey of where Denny started and then where he ended. These events that happen, your wife getting sick, your daughter being taken away from you, you can't ever really plan for those moments if or when they were to happen. So I think the idea that, you just have to be present and you just have to try and almost like dream a little bit ahead so that you can have a level of reaction. There's even in racing when Denny talks about car racing, you know, he talks about driving in the rain and how if he creates the circumstance that he's in, then he can control it, because rain is an unknown factor. And if you're fighting against it, then it's going to win. But if you're using it to create your own conditions, then you can control the outcome. There's a lot of Enzo philosophy that we, the characters, don't get exposed to because we're not hearing that narration. But when you read the script and you read the book and you see these kind of hopeful way of looking at humanity through the eyes of an animal that wants to be so badly a human, you start to understand the power of impact that we have. I feel like Denny was always one half of an equation. He was just one half, and he didn't even know it. And he's so focused. But then when Eve comes into his life, he's whole. All of a sudden, he finds his real purpose. He finds his stability. He finds even his passion toward what he was already quite passionate about his racing. And there is something so amazing about Eve's spirit, about what Amanda brings to Eve in making this kind of perfect match for Denny when he didn't even know that's what he was needing in his life. She brings reality. You know, Amanda, there isn't one moment that I don't believe. Every emotion, every intention, everything that she's saying. I mean, even the funny stuff in between takes, because Amanda's kind of a joker, she has such a heart and a spirit to her own life, the way she approaches just being a human being, that the beauty she brings into the spirit of Eve is remarkable. And I mean, I couldn't see anybody else playing that role, nor would I want to see anyone else playing Eve but Amanda. To be 8 years old and have the depth with which she plays Zoe is, I mean, it's bananas to me, you know. And she still has the spirit of being a kid. She's very professional, but she's also, she has this weight to the emotion of what this kid is experiencing. And again, it's one of those things that I look at her like I've looked at Amanda, like I've looked at Parker. I'm like, I just believe they're experiencing this. She is as present in Zoe as Amanda is as present in Eve. And she's also fun. You know, her being able to be a kid allows me to kind of be a big kid too. Just because Parker is a dog, it doesn't mean he doesn't have the deepest, most beautiful soul. And you see it. You see it in his eyes. You know, the one thing that I had said to Teresa and April and our crew of dog trainers was, guys, I really selfishly need a scene partner. You know, I need as an actor to have someone, or, you know, an animal that's going to look in my eyes, and I have to believe them to feel something. And the second I met Parker, he's just so expressive and such a loving animal that, you know, there's a lot that I got. There's a lot that I got as Denny from Parker, the acting dog. It's funny, there are moments where he and I have such different styles of working, but what he and I have built in the conversation that we've had about this man Denny and about this family and about this relationship and this drive to be a great car racer is trust. You know, the moments where he and I wouldn't even agree on a point in a scene, I would say, well, Simon, I trust you. Let's try it, let's try that. And then he'd say to me, well, I trust, you know, your instincts, so let's go with that. And it wasn't out of being polite, it was knowing that we both had value to what we were saying. It was a big conversation with Simon and I before we started this film, was the idea that Denny never hears what's going on in Enzo's head. But for a frame of timing, we kind of need to know it. And so it was like, well, do we get an actor to read Enzo's lines on set? Do we have our script supervisor, Jessica, read it? Like, what do we do? And then it was decided that, well, I don't need to hear it because I wouldn't from my dog. So let's just let it ride and let's make sure we have enough time, shooting time, so that Simon can edit the words into whatever we're shooting picture of. So there's a lot of Enzo's point of view. There's a lot of Enzo's knowledge and grace that when I'm shooting the scene, I'm not even really aware of. I'm just not. Because I, as a character, don't hear it, and I don't need to hear it. So I'm looking forward to the moment when I can go and watch the film as an audience member and hear Kevin's great voice and listen to Enzo's wisdom and grace. And I'm very much looking forward to that. It is beautiful to see the level of emotion that comes from these animals that are just there to love us. And that's all they're looking for in return. Maybe a little bit of food, belly scratches and all that. But it's something beautiful to understand that they can convey in a look. And even as an actor, it reminds me that sometimes you don't need the words. And then as a person, as a man, sometimes there are no words. There's just the experience you share, a common moment where you look in someone's eyes and you both know exactly what you're feeling.
It didn't take much to sell me on it. I mean, if a story's good, and I mean, I didn't even really care to read the script at that point because it just seemed like a perfect little package. The script ended up being great too, so then it was just one of those gems that don't come along very often, and it's really true to the book, which is special, and I think fans of the book are gonna love the movie. I know they will. It's dogs, it's their smell. It's their, it's their wide-eyed innocence, it's their playfulness and their curiosity, and they just want to love you and be, and they live in the present, and we could all learn from that. That's a big, giant challenge for us humans to live in the present, and they just do it naturally, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. Denny brings this shiny unpredictability, this adventure to her life that she wasn't necessarily looking for that, but I think it's super appealing, and he's kind of a lone ranger, and that's really appealing too. That's why I think they're kind of perfect for each other. They bring out a lot in each other, and they also show, reflect back the kind of life that they might want. She has a really, really good relationship with them, but once another person comes into Eve's life, I think their instinct is to protect, which is very, very harmful to the dynamic that they create with Denny, especially because not only is he coming into their lives and marrying their daughter, but also he has a somewhat dangerous, unpredictable job, and rightly so, they're a little concerned, but I mean, they're a little bit too much. Maxwell and Trish try to take Zoe away from Denny because of his job, and they're afraid that he's not going to be around, and she's not going to have her father around all the time, and he can't be very present because of, if he's working and making money, how can he can't do both, and so they want to take guardianship of Zoe, which is completely heartbreaking. I mean, this guy just lost his wife and is now losing his child, and that's heartbreaking. Milo brings a fight, and he's got a lot of strength, and he's very earnest and hardworking, determined, and passionate, and that's what Denny is. So they go together really well, the two of them. And I think Milo also infuses this this kind of sense of humor to Denny that I didn't read as much in the book as I see with Milo. Parker is really fun, and he's sweet, and he's smart, and he reads a room well. And he's very respectful. It's like he's older than his 2 years. He's very similar to my dog, whereas he can just chill anywhere. I'm gonna miss playing her mom very much. She is everything I hope my daughter ends up embodying. I think she's somebody that my daughter already looks up to as a 15-month-old, and it's really special when you can make a family movie like this and you really get along with these people that you're sharing such close quarters with. And it worked out really well in this instance because Milo and I love her. I love working with Simon. There's a real innocence to him, and almost like a childlike wonder, which is so important in a director. I mean, he's not jaded by anything. Things surprise him every day. Moments surprise him. Sometimes his own, ideas surprise him, or he's really pleasant to be around, and he's funny too. I think a tremendous amount of growth can happen in 2 hours for an audience member, and isn't that kind of the point? Not maybe to be entertained, but also if you can really get something from it, get a perspective, a point of view that, especially in these times like this, I mean, what could be better? Sharing that with your family when you go see it, and then rescuing a dog afterwards because you're like, I think I should also have a dog.
FuturePreviews.com. Whoa! Go behind the scenes of movies. Subscribe to FutureFlix YouTube channel.